WWE superstar Roman Reigns has undergone emergency hernia surgery at a hospital in Nashville, Tennessee, home of tomorrow night's WWE Night of Champions pay-per-view, where Reigns was scheduled to take on former Shield brother Seth Rollins. Now, in light of this event, folks, we could say that unfortunately Reigns will not be able to compete at Night of Champions. However, we can confirm that the surgery was a success and that Roman is currently in recovery. Now, in a moment, we're going to be speaking with WWE physician Dr. Chris Amon, who says that Reigns will stay overnight in the hospital. Again, this is late-breaking and developing news. Roman Reigns has just undergone emergency hernia surgery at a Nashville hospital. Reigns, one of the most physical big men on the roster, was scheduled to face off against his former Shield brother Seth Rollins tomorrow night at Night of Champions. He will not be competing in that match. Now, I'm just getting word we do have Dr. Amon on the phone. Doc, first off, what can you tell us about Roman Reigns' current condition?
Well, fortunately, everything seems to be doing fine. He's doing fine. He's resting comfortably. He did, as you mentioned, undergo emergency surgery this morning to fix a hernia.
All right, Doc, now we know, these things can linger for a little bit, these hernias. I mean, I know personally it could sit there until the pain kicks in. What brought this on for Roman? Did it happen in the ring, in the locker room? How did it kick in?
Well, this is not something that happened in the ring. This is something that Roman has had, and unfortunately, starting this morning when he was in his hotel room early this morning, he was developing a lot of abdominal pain. So he had reached out to the medical staff. We had spoken to him, and we recommended him going to the emergency room for evaluation. And at that time, it was determined that he had what is called an incarcerated hernia. Mm-hmm. And what that means, Scott, is that a loop of intestine was actually caught in the hernia sac, and that is a surgical emergency and something that needs to be repaired right away.
Wow. Now, Doc, obviously we were talking earlier how Roman will not be able to compete tomorrow night at Night of Champions. How long are we looking now in terms of recovery?
Well, from what I understand from the operating surgeon, it was a very large hernia, and so depending on how he does in terms of his recovery, we want to let the tissues heal before he returns to the ring. So we're looking at anywhere on, best case scenarios would be 4 to 6 weeks, but it could take up to 10 to 12 weeks until he's fully ready to return and compete.
Now, Doc, we know about the animosity between Roman and Seth Rollins, and we know Roman was looking forward to getting his hands on Rollins, and perform tomorrow night in front of the WWE Universe at Night of Champions. Obviously, it's got to be a big disappointment for him. What was his mood like going into the surgery and then when you spoke to him coming out?
Well, I did have a chance to speak to him prior to the surgery. His pain was a little bit better. They had controlled his pain in the emergency room. So he was actually in relatively good spirits. We were joking around a little bit, and, he understood it was something that needed to be taken care of. So fortunately, like I said, everything turned out for the best. Everything went well, and he's doing great in recovery right now.
Now, Doc, before I let you go, does a guy with his physical genetics make his road to recovery a little faster? I mean, does it matter with a hernia operation?
It really doesn't. It's not like a knee or a shoulder injury where somebody's muscle strength and their previous athletic ability can recover perhaps a little bit faster. The real thing with a hernia operation and a repair is you've got to let the tissue heal until letting somebody return to any sort of contact or physical activity. The biggest thing, we don't want to risk him re-injuring the tissue or creating another hernia. So, we'll be cautious and make sure that he's fully ready to return to the ring before we get him back in there.
All right, Doctor, thank you for your time this afternoon. That's WWE physician Dr. Chris Amon. Now, for those of you who are just tuning in, WWE superstar Roman Reigns, scheduled to compete against Seth Rollins at Night of Champions, has undergone emergency hernia surgery. He will not be in action at Night of Champions.